If you are motivated to take action by the issues presented in the following feature film preview, please see the advice to conservationists from FWC Commissioner Gary Nicholas and enter the Harvest Lottery to possibly save a juvenile Goliath grouper.
How many of the ones opposed are going to apply for this permit? I mean, every one of you should apply for the permit, and who knows how many are going to get, are going to execute, on this permit. So, how many fish actually get caught if we actually do this? So that just kind of another thought.
Every time I went out the inlet, I would bring in 8 or 10 Jewfish. Every time I went out, and I went out every day. So that was a lot of Jewfish. I used to bring in hundreds of them, and no matter how many I killed, there were always somebody taking his place. There was always somebody replaced. I would kill one, and the next day I'd come back, there'd be another right in the same spot, same ledge.
Hi, I'm Lauren Grogan. For over 3 centuries, these giants of the ocean were called Jewfish, until just 20 years ago, when their scientific common name was changed to Goliath grouper. From a baseline of tremendous abundance in the year 1950, the Goliath grouper species was almost wiped out into extinction in only 3 decades. After protection from overfishing in 1990, this mysterious fish has rebounded in a great success story for U.S. fishing regulators. Now, today, these indigenous, charismatic creatures face a future of uncertainty and misunderstanding.
Hi, I'm Tony Grogan, Captain of Enterprise and Discovery. In this feature film, we will examine several fascinating individual Goliath groupers, such as Braveheart, named after the Mel Gibson character in the movie Braveheart because of its half-dark face, and Quasimodo, named after its hunchback deformity, which has never been seen by scientists in wild Goliath populations. Then there's Big Bertha, a research record female fish weighing around 545 pounds or 247 kilograms that I personally caught on a research tagging expedition. The Academy Award-winning film My Octopus Teacher was about one man's relationship with one amazing octopus creature, while Our Goliath Wisdom is about human society's relationship with an entire marine species.
As Tony Grogan's only child, I represent the next generation in our family. I am learning about scientific concepts like shifting baseline syndrome, which happens when a new human generation inherits an ocean environment that has worsened. We tend to lower our expectations of a normal environment.
In the year 2022, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commissioners bowed to fishing community pressure by allowing the start of recreational fishing for Goliath groupers, a marine species of supersized fish that has been protected from fishing for over 30 years. Almost 100 prominent scientists told the FWC commissioners they believe this species has not yet recovered from its close call brush with extinction sufficiently to sustain even a small reopening to hook and line fishing of this once critically endangered species. The October 2022 FWC press release announcing the start of the first harvest application process says, "The highly regulated limited take of Goliath grouper is an exciting and unique opportunity to provide access to this resource after decades of closure, and we believe limited access is sustainable," said FWC Commissioner Robert Spotswood. We also look forward to collecting the post-harvest data to help guide future management decisions for the species.
Our conservation efforts have worked, and we should be, applauding ourselves and celebrating the success that we've had in bringing this fishery back. We've brought it back to a level where now it can sustain a small harvest. And, if we follow our management rules, not only are we obligated to consider that, but if that's backed up by science that we're getting from our own institute, perhaps we're obligated to do something right now. We can't be stuck just because, there's a philosophy out there that says, well, this big lovable creature should never be taken again. I don't think that's part of our management philosophy.
The scientific purpose justification by Commissioner Spotswood is flawed because FWC can collect the same post-harvest data without killing 200 juvenile Goliaths. Non-lethal data collection has been done by many Goliath scientists for decades of scientific research. Regardless, a brand new scientific development since they approved the harvest must be brought to the FWC Commission and the public's attention. Hopefully the commissioners will reconsider the decision at one of the FWC public hearings before the 2023 juvenile Goliath grouper harvest starts of March 1, 2023, as discussed in one of the harvest debates by Commissioner Gary Nicholas.
Given the comments today by the divers and what's going on in the Palm Beach area and the decline in the fish, I'd like that date to be flexible.
The procreation of future generations of juvenile Goliath groupers may be in jeopardy, and killing juvenile current generations now seems particularly unwise. For example, last year on August 22, 2021, 60 spawning-age Goliath groupers were counted at the MG-111 artificial reef site by 2 FIU scientists who were scuba diving from researcher Tony's vessel. Compare that 60 animal count last year to this year in August of 2022, when researchers have been seeing reliable and consistent counts of only 25 to 30 Goliaths at the same MG-111 site and other important spawning sites which normally would have 40 to 60 Goliaths during spawning season. For example, here's a photo of 50 Goliaths gathering on just one wreck in August of the 2018 spawning aggregation summer season. In 2022, researcher Tony filmed this tagged Goliath grouper on the spawning site wreck Esso Bonaire, swarmed by baitfish and probably ready to release her eggs in a new moon nighttime spawning run.
When the female gets ready to spawn, she apparently emits a pheromone, and that may be the basis for the vent nuzzling that we've observed. And the scad and the other species that could feed on their eggs crowd in around that female. They come from a distance and they actually come around her. And so, again, from an observation, we've seen the female try to evade those scad, darting to the bottom and around, and then going up into the water column, and the male's following her. And she releases the eggs, and they release the sperm at the same time. It's all done externally. There's no internal mating. Their fertilization is external, and then the eggs drift, the fertilized eggs drift in the water column.
The reason exactly why the Goliath counts have declined by 50% in 2022 at the spawning sites requires further scientific investigation. Several scientific organizations external to FWC have had 3 types of scientific data collection devices in place on these sites for several years for scientists with Mote Marine Lab and Florida International University. Additionally, a special meter that measures ocean currents was deployed at the MG-111 site for 2 years by Florida International University scientists. The scientific data being collected at these multiple Goliath spawning sites in Palm Beach County and others at Gulf of Mexico sites spans many years. The research papers are almost ready to be published, as several articles in scientific journals. Additionally, another Goliath research paper is coming from an FWC staff scientist named Dr. Robert Ellis. So the obvious question is, why won't the FWC commissioners wait for this externally and internally generated Goliath science to be published before starting the killing of juvenile Goliath groupers? Since the baseline year 1950 and the decade Frank Hammett started killing thousands of Goliath groupers, Florida's human population has increased almost tenfold, from 2.7 million people back then in 1950 to around 22 million people today. The number of Florida artificial reef deployments has grown from 1 in the baseline decade of the 1950s to over 1,000 in the decade of the 2010s. Additionally, human fishing technology has vastly improved since the baseline year 1950 in the form of better boats, better fishing gear, better GPS, better fish sonars, and better bottom charting software. Nowadays, human fishers can easily find and get to most places that their target fish species hang out.
Nowadays, these sharks in the Goliath grouper, they're eating 30% of my catch before I even get it in the boat.
What you just saw is known as fishing depredation, which is where a marine animal such as a shark or a Goliath grouper opportunistically feeds on a fish on a fishing hook and line or spear used by a human being.
And I've caught a lot of Goliath grouper, even though we try not to catch them. We try and stay away from them. But sometimes it's hard not to catch them when you're trying to pull a fish up from the bottom. And try as hard as we may, oftentimes, despite working with this fish for 10 or 15 minutes and trying to ventilate the fish and get the fish to go back down, we lose them. I watch them float away. And it's really disheartening to watch these fish float away.
The full 90-minute feature film will examine how Goliath groupers are not nuisance fish, as Commissioner Spotswood considers them to be. Goliath groupers actually enhance the reef ecosystem. For example, let's observe just one Goliath grouper on this mysterious World War II Helldiver airplane, discovered in the year 2011 offshore of Jupiter, Florida, in almost 200 feet of depth. Nobody knows where this mystery plane came from, in spite of the Navy ship Apache anchoring over the wreck for a week, doing side-scan sonar mapping, and sending Navy technical divers down underwater to look for airplane identification plates. Think about this incredible find. A 1940s upside-down bomber, which has been there at the bottom since before the baseline year of 1950. On the Helldiver Warbird, Tony's buddy Jim McGrath and Tony filmed a single Goliath grouper on the plane wreck, surrounded by swarming small baitfish, probably seeking Goliath eggs to eat, and also seeking protection from predator jags who prey on the baitfish periodically. The invasive lionfish here in this scene are a very significant destroyer of reef ecosystems. While indigenous Goliath groupers are beneficial to reef ecosystems through their symbiotic relationships with other species like the baitfish and their significant sand excavation behavior, to name just two positive attributes. The full 90-minute feature film will also assess ongoing threats to the continuing recovery of the indigenous Goliath groupers, like red tide and mangrove juvenile habitat destruction. Scientists will dispel myths about their normal diet because many human fishers falsely believe Goliath groupers are ravaging the reefs by eating the fish they target, such as snappers and groupers.
In the videos, you'll hear a lot of people saying that the Goliath grouper are eating all the fish that we catch. Actually, that's not true at all, and we have the scientific data to prove it.
Many fishermen think that Goliath grouper is the top of the food chain, an apex predator. In fact, they're not. They're at the bottom of the food chain, feeding on crabs and other types of crustaceans, and on clams, and on snails, and on slow-moving fishes.
I don't know about all these scientific claims about Goliath grouper eating crab, but I could tell you they do like fish, because one of them came after me, grabbed my fish, my shaft, pulled my butt past my buddy who was videotaping to the end of the wreck, and then it was a tug of war from then on. But at the end, I got my fish back, and then I guess he just swam off to go have crab for dinner.
They don't expend a whole lot of energy going after prey, only if it's tethered on the end of a fishing line, and then they will shoot after it and grab it.
A fish that may have been speared or captured by hook and line is an easy target for a Goliath grouper that don't chase down meals. They rely on slow-moving or non-moving prey items. Crabs are big on the list. A lot of burrfish have been found in the guts of these fish. And so when a fish is on a hook or on the end of a spear, it creates a predation opportunity.
The stomach content was always a source of curiosity for us because, you know, we also were fishermen along with being divers. And we'd cut the stomachs open quite often, and sometimes it would just happen as we were cleaning them. One of the things that we didn't notice a lot of course, would be free-swimming fish like a barracuda or anything like that, and no snapper and no grouper that I can remember. Nor there was a lot of schools of snook on the reef at that time, and I don't believe that I can ever remember them eating any snook.
The rush to kill Goliaths before the science is settled has been led by two FWC commissioners in particular. Keys-based former FWC Chairman Commissioner Robert Spotswood is a lawyer and real estate developer. Current FWC Commission Chairman Rodney Barreto is a Miami-based lobbyist who has a real estate development project on Singer Island, Florida. Chairman Barreto recently filed a lawsuit to allow him to develop land with mangrove habitat on Singer Island, shown in this aerial drone image, which is within a few miles of where researcher Tony lives in North Palm Beach, and where Commissioner Gary Nicholas and the family of his golf legend father Jack Nicholas grew up in Lost Tree Village. Florida has lost approximately 50% of the mangroves it once had in the past because of real estate developers like FWC Chairman Rodney Barreto. Mangrove habitat is where juvenile Goliath groupers grow up from a minuscule size that fits in the palm of a hand for the first 6 years of their lives. They grow to eventual gargantuan size after they leave the mangroves and move offshore to spend the rest of their long lives.
Okay, Commissioners, we're going to discuss our next item, which is the Goliath grouper draft rule. We're going to call Jessica McCauley up. Jessica?
And in the absence of regulations, the population began declining in the 1950s and throughout the 1980s. This was partly because they were a popular fishing target, but also because their juvenile habitat of mangroves began to decline.
Barreto bought this pristine mangrove-covered 19-acre land in 2016 for $425,000. He proposed to build mansions, a marina, private docks, and hundreds of condos on the wildlife-filled habitat. Barreto sued to eliminate the need for approvals from the district or any other state agency. After there was a huge public outcry with allegations of conflicts of interest and calls for his resignation from FWC, lobbyist Barreto said he was going to sell his mangrove real estate development land. A Palm Beach Post editorial in March 2021 stated, "If this matter weren't so serious, it would be a bad joke." In what sane universe does the head of a Fish and Wildlife Conservation Agency plan to destroy a watery shore full of seagrass, small-toothed sawfish, manatees, green sea turtles, mangroves, fish, horseshoe crabs, and other wildlife? Selling the land lets Barreto escape the pressure for now, but the questions about his judgment remain. According to the county property appraiser's website, Barreto still owns the land as of right now. FWC Commissioner Rodney Barreto publicly admitted that the fishing community's pressure to kill Goliath groupers is the #1 complaint Barreto hears.
Did we acquiesce and didn't stand up against the feds on this one, because they closed it and it's closed, right? And now we're trying to reopen it, and we need to do something, because this is the biggest complaint I get. I've been getting this complaint since day one about Goliath groupers. And I'm not trying to say that we don't have all the facts, and I'm not just saying arbitrarily just like open it up and like let's just go crazy. I'm not saying that, but I think there should be some kind of limited access to this fishery, and we need to push forward. And I think with your efforts and everybody, the rest of the commission's efforts, we need to do that. So that's my point.
Barreto also said he has been trying to open Goliaths to harvest for over 15 years. Recall that fishing Goliaths was closed to save the species from extinction in 1990, which is over 32 years ago, which implies that half that time, Barreto was trying to resume fishing Goliaths. Commissioner Spotswood considers Goliaths to be nuisance fish. He publicly admits that he and others have been pressuring FWC staff to come up with creative science metrics to open Goliaths to fishing harvest. The citizens of Florida deserve to have a full accounting of each commissioner's final stand on this important environmental issue of opening fishing of a previously critically endangered species that has been protected for over 30 years, with only Commissioner Hudson voting no. The harvest action passed with just a plurality of 3 yes votes instead of a true majority of 4 votes out of the total 7 commissioners. In this analysis of FWC commission meetings, the very important Goliath harvest vote had the lowest attendance vote count in the past 5 years, and brand new FWC Commissioner Albert Maury should be given a chance to cast his vote on this issue. Additionally, FWC Chairman Barreto should abstain from voting in the next round due to his conflicts of interest concerning mangrove destruction and fishing organization board seats he holds, such as the Bonefish Tarpon Trust. Governor Ron DeSantis has shown in the past strong leadership by vetoing or otherwise objecting to state legislature bills or regulatory matters brought to his attention that do not make sense. This governor has proven he cares about Florida's environment and that he will stand up to swamp creature lobbyists and lawyers representing special interests.
Dr. Raines is our new Chief Science Officer. He comes to us with over 30 years of experience in environmental science and hydrology, and he's going to do a great job for the state of Florida.
Dr. Raines should inquire of some of the over 100 prominent scientists why they adamantly oppose the FWC Commission Goliath harvest actions, led by real estate developer commissioners Barreto and Spotswood. How should human society consider these fascinating creatures, once called Jewfish, that greatly benefit reef ecosystems? This question is the crux of our Goliath wisdom. Goliath grouper are clearly a mysterious fish species we are only beginning to understand. They should have continued protection from fishing because this species contributes so much to robust reef ecosystems, which in turn makes commercial and recreational fishing better. Old man Frank Hammett offered us some pretty good Goliath wisdom in 2006, well before Frank died at age 90 in the year 2019.
I think that we should probably wait until they do some more studies and find out how substantial their growth back is, to make sure that we don't just wipe them all out and find out that that was a dumb thing to do.